Hello, everybody. Give us a few more moments to make sure that all families have logged in, and we'll get started momentarily. Welcome, everybody. Please give us a few more moments to make sure that all families have been able to log in via Zoom. We'll get started in a few more moments. Hello, everybody. My name is Ronaldo Lunagakid, and I want to welcome you to the first webinar in the 2021 Fall Family Webinar Series. I am the Assistant Director in the First Year Center, and tonight I'm joined by my colleagues, Dr. Jay Sriram, Director of the Learning Center, and Dr. Robert Patterson, Director of the Writing Center and Speaking Studio. We are so excited that you've chosen to join us for tonight's conversation. Some information before we get started. First, we want to make sure you know how to submit questions during this webinar. You'll notice that we've given you the ability to ask questions via the Q&A feature. Our professional staff within the First Year Center are helping to field these questions. To make sure you know how to use the Q&A feature, please share the place you're watching from, and we'll name a few of them on air live. While you do that, we will be showing a PowerPoint created by our panelists during tonight's webinar. However, if you prefer to download this PowerPoint and follow along on your own, please use the link that we just shared in the chat. As a note, in the chat feature, we will be sharing links and email addresses for the duration of the webinar. Third, this webinar is being recorded live. Next week, it will be uploaded to the families.woostel.edu website. In a moment, we will hear from our panelists about academic support resources here on campus. If something they say sparks a question, don't forget to send it to us using the Q&A feature. After their presentation, we will move into a question and answer portion of the evening. Before passing things along, I want to share some of the places that folks are joining us from tonight. We have families tuning in from Boston, Massachusetts, Westmont, Illinois, and New York City, New York, among many other locations. Now, since I know you want to hear more about academic support on campus, I will first turn it over to Dr. Sriram.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jay Sriram. I'm the director of the Learning Center. I've been at WashU for 5 years, and some of my responsibilities are advocating for resources for students for the administration, and we have a large body of student employees, around 200 student employees. Most of our programs are provided by the student employees, so overseeing the student employees, partnership with the academic departments, resource allocation, and all that fun stuff. Happy to be here, and I can walk you through our support. Most of our support can be broken down into 3 parts. Structured support, which is called peer-led team learning, and all of that support has already started. Students had an opportunity to enroll in peer-led team learning beginning of the semester, and those are structured weekly study groups with 10 to 12 students in a group led by an experienced peer leader who got an A+ in the courses and who recently took them, and recruited by the course instructors. And we offer PLTL for physics, chemistry, and calculus, both fall semester and spring semester sequences. And attendance is mandatory. Students who are enrolled in these in PLTL especially, and if they attend 8 out of 11 sessions, they get 1 credit hour. And once they enroll in the beginning of the semester, they can get dropped out of the program if they miss more than 3 sessions. They don't get credit. We don't admit students usually midway through the semester. because we purely rely on the group dynamics, and once the group dynamics is set, we don't want to break that. So we don't admit any students in PLTL, but we do have other supplemental programs available, which is complementary to peer-led team learning, which is the drop-in course support. And for all the courses I mentioned earlier, physics, chemistry, calculus, we also have drop-in course support, and also for various other courses, you can look up those courses on our website. And no, attendance is not mandatory. Pre-registration is not required. Usually they are 2 to 3 hour sessions. You don't even have to be there the whole time. You don't have to be there at the start of the time. You could go in the last 15 minutes, first 15 minutes, in between 30 minutes, anytime. It's a great place for meeting peers, allocating that time to do homework, talking with our peer mentors about the course instructors, or how to study for the course, or how to do homework. Basically the drop-in course support is driven by, the agenda of the drop-in course support is driven by the students. Whereas in PLTL, it is driven by the leaders and the instructors, because they have a set agenda to work on during the PLTL sessions. So yeah, don't forget to look up on our website to see the list of courses we offer support in. The last but not the least is the academic skills coaching. It's a newer program. We've only had this program for around 3 years now, helping students transition from high school to college. And especially it was really useful while we were remote last year, supporting students with time management. When we moved to Canvas, and a lot of this information was spread out in different places, and helping students find out where that information is on Canvas. How do I know when the exams are? How do I plot my schedule? I have a lot of exams coming up, papers coming up, and how do I prioritize? Where do I start? How do I break things down? So we help students with those things. We help them with study skills, how to be efficient, how to learn, how to break your studying so you space them out and not cram right before exams. So we talk with students a lot about that. And we have several student visitors actually dropping in during our office hours, anytime between 9 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the last is, on all of that ongoing support is provided by peer coaches, but not just that. We staff members also provide support for students. We do one-on-one consultations. We see where the student, what support the students need, and send them to either the peer coaches, or we send them to a drop-in support, or we send them to other kind of one-on-one support that the students need. So meeting with us, one of our staff members, is a good entry point to assess what support system is really necessary for the students. And not just us, I wanted to highlight the other support systems that are available on campus. And note that the professors are a good point of support for the students, and they are very excited to speak with our students in the office hours. Not many students go to the office hours, and if they want to know about the concepts that the professor talked about in the class, office hours is a good way to communicate with them. And TAs and AIs and four-year advisors are deciding. For example, I want to give an example here. Your student is in Calc 2, and they find that it's not the right course for them, or they should drop down to another level of Calc, or skip Calc altogether and take it at another time. And I would say talking with your four-year advisor first, and then going to your professor at the same time, or after talking with your advisor is definitely advised. And study groups, students can form their own study groups with the students, or contact us so we can find study groups for students. And PLTL, as I mentioned earlier, help rooms. The departments themselves have help rooms, or the schools have tutoring services. Engineering school has one-on-one tutoring services. Business school has one-on-one tutoring services. Sometimes the course itself will have learning consultants or mentors. Our mentors are usually tied up with or embedded in the program itself. So all of our information is already posted on Canvas. right? So what can you do as, as parents and families? So, it can be hard. First year can be really hard when, they're learning new habits, they are independent, trying to figure out what they can do with their time. So asking questions, especially right around this time when they've taken their first exam or about to take their first exam or gotten their grades back, and they're not too happy with the B+ that they received, so, there are some questions that you can ask the students, how are they spending their time outside of class, right? Like they have all this time now, and they might not have blocks of time, right? Their time might be distributed, and they might have half an hour, they might have 3-hour blocks of time. How are they utilizing their time? Asking about that. And where are they studying, right? If they have classes in different corners of campus, are they walking back to campus in between? Are they finding a place in between where they can sit down to study? Are they studying independently? Are they studying in groups? Do they like studying in groups? Is it beneficial for them to study in groups? Asking those questions can be useful. And of course, how are they managing their time? Are they studying all the time? Are they doing anything fun? Are they doing self-care, like time budgeting? So is it all spread out evenly, equitably? So talking about that can be useful. And how are they reading their material? Fluency does not mean mastery. Are they reading things over and over again and not really testing themselves? Are they not making an outline? Are they not, using retrieval practices? So they should be using retrieval practices, because the way they are being tested in college is very different from, probably very different from how they were tested in high school. They are tested on their ability to apply the knowledge that they have learned to the classes, which means they have to problem solve, they have to apply, they have to engage in retrieval practices. So asking those questions. And how are they doing their homework? Are they doing it at 11:30 when it's due at midnight? Or are they starting as and when the homework is released? So they are doing it over a period of time instead of just doing it right before the deadline. And how are they taking notes in class? Our RPM, our residential peer mentors and drop-in mentors can be really useful in actually guiding students on how to take notes in class. Where do you sit? Does the lecture really matter? Do I have to study from the textbook? Do I have to study the 150 pages that I'm asked to read in this particular class? Should I skim through? Should I outline? Should I annotate? So asking our mentors these questions can be really useful. And I want to highlight this point about foundational knowledge, like moving from remote, right? Last year was a mess. So we don't know how the students' foundational knowledge is coming from remote learning to in-person learning. And we are already seeing some of those gaps with the students. They are not in a place where they should be. And if you see that happening, if your students are frustrated about that, you definitely need to have conversation with your instructor, conversation with your four-year advisor about, what resources to use, because you have limited amount of time. The students have limited amount of time, and there is only so much effort that you can put into a specific course, right? Having conversation about, do I drop down? Do I need a one-on-one tutor? How much are you engaging in group study? So really, really think about this with your student about foundational knowledge. And, what other campus resources are they using? And they shouldn't be spending a lot of time using those resources and spending zero time with themselves, learning the concepts on their own and testing themselves. So asking, are you really doing this on your own? Are you doing independent learning? Are you testing yourself? So, if you get to talk with your students or, share this slide with them, we have talked with them as well. We have asked them to ask these questions as well, but if they've missed it, please, ask your students these questions so they can reflect on their first exam and their practices. And that's our website. And it's very intuitive. You can find information about our drop-in programs. And we also have a calendar called mentoring sessions. And if you click on the mentoring sessions on the top right-hand corner of our website, it will take you to the list of all our drop-in sessions. And no appointment necessary. Again, you can just drop in at any time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sriram, for sharing that insightful information. I have a question that I know many families may be wondering. So what are the open hours of the Learning Center right now, and what times of the day and week are services offered?
If the students want to talk with one of our staff members or inquire about our programs, anytime, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. But most of our programs, though led by student leaders and mentors, they are in the evenings, residential colleges and around campus. And the schedule of our mentoring sessions can be found on our website.
Great, thank you so much. Now that we've had the chance to hear from the Learning Center, we want to take some time to hear from Dr. Patterson about the services provided by the Writing Center and Speaking Studio.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Rob Patterson. I'm the director of the Writing Center and Speaking Studio. I've been at WashU for 21 years, and I've been with the Writing Center for the past 9. The Writing Center is here to support any kind of writing that students are doing at any stage of the writing process. We work with all writers. So we're not just talking about writers that are struggling or getting low grades or something like that, but all writers across the university, from freshmen all the way through to graduate students, to postdocs, to faculty. And while we do work with coursework, we're also talking about job applications, summer internship applications, med school applications. If they're writing it, we're helping them with it. But of course, along the way, we're not just talking about writing itself. We're helping students and writers gain confidence in themselves as writers and thinkers. We're helping with their resilience and dealing with setbacks and feedback that maybe they're not used to getting because now the standards are higher. We're working on critical thinking skills. And most of all, over the course of their time at the university, when they're coming into the Writing Center, we're working on their self-awareness as scholars, writers, and human beings. So how do we do that? We do it one-on-one. So this is one of the advantages that we have in our work with students, is that we can build a personal connection and give that one-on-one attention to the work that they're doing. It's very rare that a student gets to sit down with someone for an hour and actually see them read their work in front of them and ask questions as they're reading it. Usually by the time they get a paperback from a professor, it's this behind the scenes experience. And here we're showing them that we're there to act as a coach and an ally. We're respecting them as writers and scholars. We know that they're capable, and we're engaging them with their writing and their ideas. We're not there to just line edit and fix their work. And this is kind of a change from the way maybe they've gotten feedback from teachers in high school who might look at a draft, mark everything that needs to be fixed, give it to them, the student fixes it, turns it in, gets an A. That doesn't happen anywhere at WashU. What we're going to do is engage them with their ideas and basically teach them how to become better writers and thinkers. So we're respecting them as scholars in the process of developing ideas, and we can help them at that stage, and trying to find the best way to communicate those ideas, and we help them at that stage. And along the way, we're focusing on the long game. So where professors might have a student for one semester, maybe another if they take another class with that same professor, students can build working relationships with our staff members that can last all 8 semesters. So we might have someone who's working with the same person on their freshman writing in college writing classes, all the way through to when they're applying for medical school or writing a senior thesis. And so we really can tailor according to the needs of that student along that journey. So the nuts and bolts, as I mentioned, we serve all levels and divisions. It doesn't matter what school they're in. It doesn't matter what class it is. If there's some kind of writing happening, we can help with that. These are about an hour-long one-on-one sessions, and we work primarily by appointment. Demand for our services is extremely high. And so making an appointment as far in advance as possible is the best strategy. So right now is the time for students to look at their syllabi. When are those due dates later in the semester? Let me make those appointments and at least be safe. Later on, I'm going to talk about what you can do if, what students can do if they can't find an appointment, they need something sooner than that. There are several strategies. We're open Sundays, we're open days and evenings. And right now and going forward, we can work with students no matter where they are in the world because all of our appointments can be online. We will return to offering in person in the spring, but right now everything is online. We'll continue offering online forever, at least as long as I'm around. So if they are home for the weekend and that is the only time they can get an appointment, we can work with them. Just make sure they remember we're on Central Time. Our staff is a mix of staff. It's one of our strengths. We have professional staff members, we have graduate fellows, and we have undergraduate peer tutors. The student staff that go through a very competitive selection process and an entire semester's worth of training. It's about a 9-month process from application to the time that they can start actually working in the Writing Center. So any one of them is very well prepared to support students. As I mentioned, we support any kind of writing, including emails to parents. So if you see a really, really good email explaining a tricky situation, it's possible we may have helped them with it. After all, it is a very special kind of rhetorical situation that can be tricky. And at any stage of the writing process. So while most students understand we will review a draft, we can help them right after they get the assignment. They can come in and say, I got this assignment. I want to talk it through, make sure I understand it. We encourage them to do that with their professors as well, but talking to someone who's not grading you can sometimes be a step towards that. And we can help them brainstorm and put a plan together. So remember I said they should make those appointments as far in advance as possible. We get a lot of students who will call us the day of their appointment and say, you know, I made this appointment. I was going to have a draft done by today, but I don't, so I need to cancel my appointment. And instantly, what we tell them is don't cancel your appointment. Come in and we'll help you brainstorm, put a plan together and get some momentum going. So that those appointments can serve as good early deadlines to try to get something done. And if they don't have anything done, it can be a great jumping off point. Looks like our slides might be a little stuck, so I'm just going to hold off a little bit. So I want to move on to what you can do. Basically, if you hear that your student's working on a paper, ask if they're using the Writing Center. If they're working on an application, ask if they're using the Writing Center. This is something that seems like, oh, well, they should know it. Aren't you telling students? We absolutely are. And we're also communicating through faculty and asking faculty to tell them about it. But the thing is that most times people don't really think about the tools that are available to them until they need it. And someone says, hey, you have that tool. So it's very helpful for them to hear from multiple people so that at the right moment they've heard, oh, right, yeah, the Writing Center, I did hear something about that. We're going into classes, especially first year classes, quite a bit, both semesters, and sometimes right about the time that they've got that first paper coming up. But you can absolutely help us with that. Now, if they tell you that the schedule is full, and I know that this is a question that we get a lot, I am looking and I can't find anything. We have a wait list function. So on our online scheduling system, next to each day, there is a wait list link. So a student can go through and click on each of those links and add them to the wait list for every single day between now and the time that the paper is due. What happens when you're on the wait list? Well, when someone cancels, the system sends out a text message to everyone on the wait list, and the first person to log in, it can snag that appointment. Now, it can be a little frustrating at first because students can get beat to it, but we get a lot of people who do cancel. Just this morning, we got some phone calls saying, hey, I can't make my appointment this afternoon. Text messages went out, and some of the people who had been having trouble getting appointments got appointments for today. We also have no-shows. It drives us crazy. but it helps students who are on the wait list, because when someone doesn't show up to an appointment, our staff members will start calling the wait list and say, can you work with us right now? The beauty of online appointments is it doesn't matter where they are. They can just sit where they are, hop on a laptop and meet with someone right then and there. So there are absolutely ways to get appointments. We are adding more availability all the time. Since the beginning of the semester, we're like the first 4 weeks, we just kept adding more and more and more to the schedule. So we know that whether a student can get an appointment or is on the wait list, they are going to have opportunities for appointments. If your student says that they're a strong writer, remind them that all writers can continue to improve. We don't want them to graduate from WashU still being a great high school writer. And honestly, all of the professors and scholars who publish on campus, they're constantly sharing their writing with others as part of their writing process. And that's part of what we're providing our students. So our website is writingcenter.woostel.edu, very simple to remember. That's where students can go to see our schedule. That's where they can create a free profile with us. It is absolutely free, or rather I should say you're already paying for it. Make use of the things you're already paying for. There's a sunk cost thing here, right, folks? And then once they're sophomores, there's also an opportunity to apply to be a part of our training process to work in the Writing Center. So if that's something that might interest your student, that'd be something to bring up to them when they are sophomores. That's all I got, and looking forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patterson, for sharing all of this information. A question I think many family members may be thinking about, is the Writing Center and Speaking Studio able to offer anything beyond a one-on-one session? Do they do group sessions, or those possibilities as well?
Absolutely. So we know that group papers are becoming more common, even though WashU students were always that kid in high school who did all the work for a group, so they've learned not to like group work. So all they need to do is just make an appointment, and then the entire group can show up to an in-person appointment. Right now, with things being online, they should make that appointment and then just send us an email saying it's a group appointment, and we will make arrangements so they can all hop online with us. Beyond that, we offer plenty of workshops. We have a lot of workshops on personal statements, statements of purpose, lots of things for later. And a lot of our workshop offerings are usually for courses that ask us to come in. But if a group of students or a student group or organization came to us and said, hey, we would like a workshop on X writing topic or public speaking topic, we'll put it together for them. We'll custom build it.
Thank you so much. We are now going to move on to the remainder of our question and answer portion of this webinar. As a reminder, families, please submit your questions via the Q&A feature. A first question that we have are, what individual tutoring options are available for students who may be living either on campus versus off campus?
I think I touched on this earlier. Individual schools, Olin Business School has individual tutoring, and engineering student services also has tutoring, one-on-one tutoring. So if students are enrolled in physics, chemistry, math, if they are engineering students, then they get support through engineering school. Arts and sciences, however, does not have one-on-one tutoring. But since we provide drop-in resources for most of those foundational large enrollment courses. That being said, if the students are using PLTR and or using drop-in mentoring, but their needs are not met, as I said before, if they have large foundational gaps and they are not engineering students or business school students, please reach out to us and we will be able to arrange one-on-one support or even small group support, anywhere between 2 to 4 students in a group.
Dr. Sriram, I have a follow-up question that is unrelated to that question. So if a student did not enroll in peer-led team learning, PLTL, at the beginning of the semester, are they still allowed to enroll later on? And then can they access the materials without receiving course credit or being in the course?
Yes. they will be able to access the material. It'll be posted on Canvas Monday evening because our PLTL sessions are over the weekends and Monday nights. And they don't post those ahead of time so that, students don't have access to those and they don't feel the need to go to the PLTL sessions. But yes, all students have access to that. They won't be able to enroll in PLTL sessions at a later point because then they do not get credit for it. And it also affects the dynamics of the group. The PLTL is very well researched on internationally, and the dynamics really place the trust within the group, and the roles of the students within the group really is important for the success of the program. So no, they won't be able to enroll halfway through the program.
Dr. Patterson, can students request help from specific people within the Writing Center? You had mentioned that some of your staff have an opportunity to build relationships over time. So can they request specific help from individuals if they found someone they really like going to?
Absolutely. In fact, they're making their own appointments. When they look at the schedule, they can see who's available when, so they can make their appointments with whomever they choose. And that's one of the advantages of planning in advance. If they don't, sometimes they're going to just have limited options. But once they find someone they do like working with and they're in a class, they know they're going to be doing a lot of writing, they can make regular appointments with that person. It's completely up to them. Now, on the wait list, there's also a function to say, I only want an appointment with this person if it becomes available. I don't recommend using that because honestly, if you're on the wait list, you want to get as many opportunities to get an appointment as possible.
Are all WashU academic support services, including tutoring and some of the ones that you've shared, that both the teaching or that the Learning Center runs, that the Writing Center and Speaking Studio runs, and beyond those, are they all free or do students have to pay for it?
So the Writing Center and the Speaking Studio, our services are free, though we really appreciate donations to our cause.
Very good pitch, Rob. Our services are free too. Our tutoring, PLTL, everything is free except the MCAT program that we offer. That one does have a cost. All of the departmental tutoring services is also free, but sometimes you will find private tutors list on math department website or microeconomics or statistics like that, but those might not be free. If they say private tutoring on it, those are not free, of course.
For this next question, this is a pre-submitted question that I will answer on behalf of the division. So the question that a family asked us is, what does the process look like for students who require learning accommodations? How should they get started? And so we wanted to just note that for students needing learning accommodations, that we encourage them to contact Disability Resources. The team within Disability Resources will serve as the first point of contact for students needing those learning accommodations. And we'll share both of the email addresses and the website link for DR, for Disability Resources, here in the chat. Would either of you be able to speak to what is the average class size here at WashU, and how is a student able to receive individual support in larger lecture style classes?
So that's a good question about average class size. I'm sure that has changed over the past few years, but generally speaking, aside from those introductory courses, students are going to be in smaller classes. Our college writing courses are capped at 12 students. That's phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal, which means freshmen in college writing are getting a level of attention that's unheard of at the college level. I have colleagues at other universities who have 25, 30 students in an entry-level writing course. I'll let Jay speak to how students can get support in larger lecture classes, because that's going to be more in the areas of the Learning Center.
Yes, absolutely. On an average, I think the foundational courses has about 200, each section has about 200 students in it. And I have to say there is a ton of resources, almost, up to their eyebrows for foundational courses. And the first line of support would be the TAs and AIs. Some of these courses have recitation sessions that are mandatory and led by AIs and TAs. And I would highly recommend that the students use those support, and also instructors have office hours, they have help sessions, and they have exam review sessions, and students generally don't go to the office hours typically. But we did find that over the pandemic last year, when they moved to online help sessions and online office hours, we saw an increase in the number of students using. And I know a lot of instructors are doing hybrid, either doing hybrid or they are doing one virtual session and one in-person session. And I cannot recommend enough how, how important that is to meet with their instructors. And not all of the introductory courses actually have peer-led team learning, but I said like organic chemistry, when they take organic chemistry, there are learning consultants. The names are very different based on what courses they are taking, like biology, I know. Now they are called recitation sessions. They used to be called biology team learning groups. So know that they might be different based on what courses they are enrolled in. And on Canvas, there is always information about what resources are available. Introductory sequences are very organized, right? If there are multiple instructors teaching the course, they coordinate, there is synchrony, most of the time synchrony among the different sections, and all of that resource information is posted on the website. And any information or email or announcement that they get through Canvas, please have them take a look at it.
And Dr. Sriram, you had shared during your, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dr. Patterson.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that there's so much to keep track of, and it can be overwhelming. But the point is that if students just talk to someone, their four-year advisor, walk into the Learning Center and say, I need this kind of help. We have had people walk into the Writing Center and say, I'm looking for math help and I don't know where to go. We will connect them with it. So they just need to talk to someone and we'll get them what they need. They can talk to their professor and say, hey, this is the kind of help I'm looking for. They may feel a little intimidated doing that. There's no reason to, but we'll get them the help they need.
Dr. Sriram, you had shared a little bit during your presentation about some of the skills-based sessions that you all offer around things like study skills or time management skills. Are these primarily done in groups or are they done one-on-one? Can you speak a little bit more to those shared opportunities?
Absolutely. We will be offering workshops. Actually, we are offering a reading workshop either this week or next week. And we usually offer a series of workshops. We only started the series last year. On an average, we had about 12 students attending each workshop. And we also offer one-on-one consultations. So we'll do one-time consultations. If we want to set up students with resources, we'll also make ongoing appointments if needed based on the needs of the students. So yes, the students can go to the workshops, see what we can do, and or set up one-on-one consultations with our staff. We also have peer coaches. There are about 5 to 6 peer coaches who actually have their hours in our office. Right here, we are in the lower level of Malincrot. And in our conference rooms, our peer coaches meet with students anytime between 4 to 6 p.m. But students need to make appointments with our peer coaches ahead of time so that they're not waiting outside the room.
Dr. Patterson, I have a couple of questions here for you. How far in advance would you recommend that students contact the Writing Center for assistance with a paper that they are anticipating down the pipeline? We'll start with that question.
So students can log into our scheduling system and book up to 45 days in advance. Now that's a little extreme, but I can tell you that in the fall semester, the demand is much higher. So sometimes the next available appointment will be 3 weeks from now. In the spring, it's 2 weeks. That said, there are openings next week. I just looked. There were 4 appointments that went unused today because students canceled and no one from the wait list took those appointments. So, you know, there were opportunities and the students on the wait list just didn't take them. And we also have staff members who are adding hours to the schedule on an ongoing basis. So it's not a kind of all or nothing, well, I didn't make an appointment and now I can't find anything. But like I said, the wait list and just checking that schedule. And, you know, even now, even though we're not doing in-person appointments, a student can walk in and say, I just wanted to see if someone didn't show up for their appointment. And we're happy when that happens, because then at least a no-show gets used because someone walked in.
Awesome. As a follow-up to that, we have some family members who are asking about, like, oh, you know, my student has is looking for an appointment and the availability that they have is farther down the road. So it sounds like showing up and asking for availability that day. Can you speak a little bit more about the wait list situation and like how a student might be able to get onto a wait list for an appointment?
Sure, yeah. On the schedule, like next to each day, there's a waitlist link. They click on that. There's a little pop-up. It says join the waitlist. It's really crucial that in their profile, they opt into text messages, because if they don't, they're not going to get those texts. It's going to go to their email, and everyone who gets the text is going to be able to respond, log in, and take that appointment faster than they can. But there are going to be plenty of opportunities. So if they get beat to it for the first couple of texts that they get, there are just going to be more cancellations. And like I said, when we add people to the schedule, those messages are going to go out again. So, and really, if they're just having a lot of trouble, they can email us. It's very simple, writing@woostel.edu, or they can, you know, come in during, you know, Monday through Friday, regular business hours, and we can see what we can do.
The last question that I have for you, Dr. Patterson, are student employment opportunities offered by the Writing Center, and then for you, Dr. Sriram, by the Learning Center as well? How would a student who might be interested in that kind of thing find involvement that way?
So we take applications at the Writing Center every fall. They're usually due in late October. Freshmen cannot apply. We need them to kind of get going with their own writing and establish themselves first. Once they apply, we ask for writing samples, we interview them, and then we select about a dozen to be in a training course in the spring. And throughout that training course, they're learning about the pedagogy and approach. They're doing practice internship hours. They're getting feedback. It's at the very end of that semester that we determine who's ready to start working the following fall. So it's quite a commitment, but because of that, the compensation is good as well. So it is a paid position.
Mentor recruitment is an important process for us as well. We hire around 100 of them in the spring semester. Basically, all of spring semester, we are recruiting. Our application for different positions will be open early January and will close in February, early February. It's usually open only for a few weeks. And then all of spring semester, as I said, we are recruiting. And on the, our cycle is kind of reversed compared to the Writing Center. The students take a 1 credit hour training course in the fall semester while they are actually providing the support, right? I guess in the Writing Center, they get the training before, right? They provide the support. So for us, it's a little bit different, but everybody goes through a 1 credit hour training while they are providing the support.
Dr. Sriram, are PLTL sessions and options only offered for first-year students, or is this by class? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Anybody who is enrolled in the course is eligible to apply for PLTL.
Awesome. Dr. Patterson, you'd shared a little bit about students accessing the Writing Center for a number of different reasons beyond just sort of their coursework. Is there opportunities for students who have graduated and are then either taking a gap year and then applying to medical school to be able to access these resources, or are these only for currently enrolled students?
That's a great question. We are absolutely available to alumni. So it doesn't matter. And this is for applying to medical school, law school, or other graduate programs, master's and PhD programs, because we know that it's become very normal to take gap years. They have a better chance of getting in if they've taken gap years. They're just in a better place in their lives. And our pre-health advising, our pre-law advising, our pre-grad advising is available to students post-graduation. So the Writing Center's help is aligned with that. We've worked with people who graduated 15 years ago and now they're going to law school or medical school. And because we offer remote appointments, they can be anywhere in the world. As long as they remember we're on Central Time, we'll connect with them.
For both of you, and I know that I know that this is like a very big question because you offer many, many different kinds of services and it may be different per service. So we have a number of family members who are asking, what is the expected response time when a student does that initial reach out for help? And then how can they as a family member continue to support them after they've done that reach out to you all?
I think for the Writing Center, it's a self-service type of thing to make their appointments. So they log in, they can make their appointments instantly. It's just a matter of, is there availability? But if they have questions about our services or they can't find an appointment and they want to reach out to see what we can do, they can email us and basically by the next business day, we're going to reach back out to them with whatever information we have and move pretty quickly.
I would say the same, anywhere between 24 to 48 hours max. There are busy times like exam times, and if the student is asking for a tutor or any additional support right before exam, that's probably not going to happen because our mentors themselves are students and they are also taking exams, and it's harder to make an appointment right before the exam. So yes, except for those times, typically 24 to 48 business hours.
We know that we've had a challenging year and a half, 2 years. What are things that academic support systems here at WashU, what are the things that we're doing to help students who may be experiencing either imposter syndrome at the university or experiencing difficulty in transition as a result of not being in a live classroom for a while? So are there things that that either of your all's areas have focused in on as a result of those different needs?
Yeah, since I'm unmuted, I can go first. Programmatically, we did spend a lot of time thinking about that because, students at WashU, especially after the switch, post-pandemic, we are still in the pandemic, sorry. After the virtual learning, coming back to in-person learning, we kind of realized that our support system need to be ramped up for this year. We found that initially that the gaps in knowledge, the foundational knowledge, students were very heterogeneous, right? So we ramped up our support. We recruited more mentors than we usually would. And our parameters, our eligibility criteria for certain programming also kind of widened. And the academic skills workshops that I was talking about, those are new because we thought those were important, especially when students are transitioning. With the training that we do, we have also been talking about imposter syndrome with our mentors. And we try to give them the language. How do you provide feedback to the students? How do you support them mentally? What are the different resources on campus that you need to be aware of to refer students out to? What are some things within your locus of control and what are not within your locus of control? So yeah, we have thought about it programmatically and training wise as well.
Dr. Patterson, it remuted you.
Sorry about that. I think for an entire year with most students having a remote experience, we were working remotely, and we were working with international students across the globe, and they were up all hours of the night working with us. I think one of the things we saw was that our role working with writing was still important, but that other part of what I was talking about in just the human connection, that look, we are two people who are just talking about ideas and working on things like confidence and resilience became that much more important. And many students expressed just the how great it was just to have that one-on-one connection, because when they were on Zoom, they were usually in a classroom where most people's cameras were off and so on. So we know that that is that much more important now. And it's that much more important for us to encourage students who are, feeling a little less prepared and so on, to see these resources as a normal thing. We're normalizing the use of resources. Students who come from very wealthy backgrounds know that that's how their family got wealthy, and that's how they stay wealthy, is using all the resources, your accountants and your lawyers and all these things, right? And that's what you do in this environment as well. Use all of your resources. And I think we're having more conversations, encouraging students to talk with their professors about things that may not necessarily be directly academic, but are affecting their academics, whether it's their health, their mental health, something going on at home, that they, after all, their teachers are human beings. And when we just tell them, look, I need more time on that assignment, or what, we are giving them an opportunity to respond to us as human beings. And we'll find that we're actually in a community where we're surrounded by people who actually are looking out for us. And college really is not what our high school teachers told us, where, oh, you just have to get the work done or you're not going to get the A, and they don't care. And they absolutely do care. Our students were all lied to in high school. I'm sorry to tell you.
In a related kind of question, we have a family member who writes that their child was a very high achieving student in high school, but that they're struggling academically here at WashU, whether as like a perception of their performance, or maybe they are actually struggling in some of the work that they're doing. Is this typical? And then if so, what is the first step that you would suggest as a parent or family member that you would encourage them to do first, as like a first step, as folks who have been here working in academic support services for a long while?
This is going to be the first time for some students that they get a C on a paper or a B, and it's going to be earth-shattering for them. I was there. I was a WashU undergrad. It happened to me too. And we absolutely have to normalize that, because yes, you were great in high school, and this is a chance for growth. And if anything, you're in the right place, that this is going to be the place that challenges you and pushes you and so on. Now, how do we get through that? It's going and talking to professors and making use of all of these resources. It's not a matter of, I just need to work harder. It's not a matter of, I just need to put more time. Now, if you're procrastinating and not putting any time into it, maybe that's it. But doing more of the same is going to get you the same result. So it's a matter of talking to others and seeing, like, how can I approach this differently? How can I push myself and see it as an opportunity to grow? I'm sure Jay has more to say on this.
That was a good outline. I would echo the same, and also say that do an inventory of what the student did right before the exam, or now is a time when they're all reflecting on their exams. So do an inventory of how much time did you study, when did you study, did you really take notes, did you review the lecture video, did you use resources? So sit down and make a list of everything that you did, and talk with somebody else or an expert learner, an upper class student, and see what they did, and compare notes and see. And I think it is going to be an experimental process, right? And that's why they are here, and first year is going to be that way. That is the growth process. So as Rob mentioned, so it may work, it may not work the second time, but again, revisiting and reflecting on what worked, what didn't work. Do you need additional support? Is there a disability? There are, sometimes those kind of conversations are also really necessary. So use this as a time to reflect on your practices, on their practices, and experiment.
And really, there's nothing that happens freshman year that's going to keep them from medical school or that job or law school. The only thing is to just improve upon that first exam or paper and show a trajectory of growth, because that makes actually for a really compelling narrative when you're applying for that next opportunity, that I actually learned something, I actually grew as a result of these experiences.
Yeah.
Shifting gears pretty largely, what support is available for students who may be looking to catch up if they've had to miss class or miss sessions for COVID or illness related reasons?
I would suggest talking with the instructors first. What did they miss? Where is all that information? And I can tell you that there are several drop-in sessions that are underutilized. So if you want to know which ones they can go to, they can always email the Learning Center at learningcenter@worcester.edu, and I can give specific information about what sessions they can go to. There are certain remote sessions that are underutilized, hybrid sessions are underutilized. Like finding that time when, like Saturdays at 11 a.m., nobody really goes to those, right? So like going to those so you have the whole 2 hours. And if it's a longer period of time, if it's more than 3 sessions, reach out to us, or three classes, reach out to us, and we'll set you up with a group where you can have more personal time.
Yeah, I think it's so important to talk. I mean, talk to your professors. Like that's constantly the first thing we need to say, because it may be that they talk to their professor and their professor says, okay, here's what you need to do to catch up, and here are the assignments you don't need to worry about. Because we're in a pandemic and some of our professors are sick sometimes. So again, an opportunity for them to respond as a human being and tell them, here's what's absolutely necessary and don't worry about these other things. I'm not guaranteeing that's going to happen.
Speaking of talking with professors, for larger courses that offer office hours, are there any pieces of advice that you have for family members who are encouraging their students to talk with their professors or to help their students as they ensure ways to engage with their professors, either in office hours or after class?
You're going to need a letter of recommendation, and you want it to say more than this person came to class every day and they got an A, because that's all they're going to be able to say if you never talk to your professor. You don't have to have problems or questions to talk to your professor. You can go to office hours and say, hey, that conversation today, that thing we talked about, that reading was really interesting. Can we talk about it some more? And I am telling you, as someone who got a PhD in something really obscure that only 6 people in the whole country care about, if an 18, 19-year-old came to my office hours and said, can you tell me more about that thing? I'm going to be over the moon. I'm going to remember that person. So yes, absolutely. If they have questions, great, go. If you want more help on something, yes, but it doesn't have to be that. One of the things we do in the Writing Center sometimes is be that baby step toward it, because students can feel a little intimidated, or sometimes they don't know what they don't know. So we can kind of uncover that and say, here are the questions that you should go to your professor with. And sometimes they feel a little more comfortable writing out the questions and going in. But go in, don't just email. At least have a Zoom meeting with them, because that's what they're all doing now. It's great. More people are actually showing up to office hours. They love it. That's all I have to say about that.
Panelists, thank you so much again. Families, we hope that you were able to learn some valuable information this evening. We recognize as a note that many families had questions regarding library hours for the semester. We will share that information from our colleagues in library services on our Facebook page and website soon. In the meantime, if you have students who are looking to find locations for studying during times when the library may not be open, for first year students, families, we encourage you to have them talk to their WUSAs. For sophomore families, we have a program called the TUSA program that we encourage your sophomore students to reach out to them. And we also encourage them to reach out to their peers because there are many locations to study on campus beyond just the libraries as well. As a reminder, this webinar recording will be shared at families.boostl.edu next week. Stay tuned for our next webinar, Parent and Family Weekend Preview, occurring on Wednesday, October 6th at 5:30 p.m. You will be able to register for this webinar at families.boostl.edu. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.